What's up, Podcast Nation? This is Drew, aka Aren't You Funny, bringing you episode 5. That's right, episode 5 of Peace of Mind. I hope that you all have been enjoying this thus far because I've been enjoying making it, and I really enjoyed getting our first guest in here last week, and I enjoyed it so much that I decided to collaborate with Mr. Bayo here, who I will introduce here in a second, and get another crispy frame of mind for you all today. So, before we get started, I feel I should do my usual disclaimer that though I am a mental health therapist by day, I am not your mental health therapist, and this is not intended to replace or anything along those lines of anything that you have going currently. This is purely a supplement. This is just kind of a hacks for you, or quick tips, or hey, I've never heard that perspective before kind of thing. So yeah, don't just decide to up and quit going to therapy and start listening to the podcast instead, because that is not why I'm here. The other thing is, if you are struggling with things and you're like, you know what, I'm just at the point where I really want to end my life and I just can't do it anymore. I don't know how I'm going to continue on. I would love to be a resource for you and a support for you. However, I am just a random guy on the internet, and so I'm not going to be the best resource for you to do that. You're welcome to reach out to me, but what I'm probably going to end up telling you is that you should contact either the National Suicide Hotline, or you should search your city and state and crisis services, because they are the ones that will be able to meet your needs more efficiently than I ever will. So, with that being said, sometimes we do talk about difficult things on here because life is difficult sometimes, and every episode isn't going to be for everybody. Some people are like, you know what, this material is just a little bit too much for me. I can't do this. I can't handle it. And that's all good. I would encourage you to try and stick it out, because I think there's something to be said for hearing some difficult material. But if it just gets to the point where it's too much for you and you're like, you know what, I really need to skip, it's not going to hurt my feelings at all. I wish you the best, and I hope that you come back for the next one. So, with that being said, I would like to introduce to you all Bayo, who will tell a little bit more about himself and say hello. So, go for it, Mr. Bayo.
Hello there. As Funny has introduced me, I am Bayo, or Beowulf Blackburn, in his chat. I'm predominantly a gamer, just like the funny man himself. But but I'm also a huge gun guy. So if we ever start to talk, don't be surprised if I start bringing that stuff up.
Indeed. That and Warframe. You're very good about both of those.
Oh yeah.
So, much like our previous episode, I don't know specifically how you found me. So, how did we come to
That
meet
is actually
exactly?
that was a complete chance, believe it or not.
Okay.
I decided one day, after an event that I'm going to get into,
Yeah.
that I was going to decide to browse some of the featured broadcasts on Fallout 4.
Okay.
And this was during your Fallout 4 playthrough. And I found you out of sheer luck of me just wanting to watch random people play. You were in the middle of a vault, and you had started asking questions about if things respawned in the game, and I basically answered. You said hello, and things kind of took off from there.
I did not. So, first of all, this is the second time that somebody has found me while I was a featured broadcaster, and I had absolutely no clue. So, that blows my mind, because I did not know that I was a featured broadcaster for Fallout at the time. So, for those of
Hmm.
you that aren't in the video game world, Fallout is essentially a game where you take on the story of a character and you kind of mold and shape their story through going through various adventures. And so Bayo here was looking into that game when he found me. So that's what that is. Um,
Hmm.
so, Mr. Bayo, tell us a little bit about what brings you onto the podcast today.
Well, you predominantly telling me about the podcast and I expressed interest in wanting to come along because
Absolutely.
after I heard, I was kind of late towards the podcast with Bailey about depression. I kind of wanted to give my view on that, but Bailey did an amazing job of pretty much capping and talking about anything that I would have already said. So it would have been a recap episode.
Yeah.
So I decided it would probably be a good idea to talk about. I think the word is endurance. How to how to
Yeah.
get through the hard time, not just how to deal with it in the long run, but in the moment, you need to figure out what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think when we had talked before, we had basically decided that we were going to call this one overcoming adversity because, like you said,
Yeah,
having the
overcoming it.
endurance,
Yeah,
yeah, having the endurance to get through that adversity and not only get through that, but also, like you said, kind of playing the long game as well of like, okay, well, here's the long game, and then here's how I'm immediately going to deal with things for sure.
exactly. Because the long game is extremely important, but short game can mean life or death in some people's lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, like those people in the that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like, well, I'm
Hmm.
really considering killing myself. I mean, that's a very like I
Yeah,
know that I brush
that's a
over that a little
terrible
bit,
place
but
to be in.
absolutely. And I know that I just kind of briefly highlight that, but it's something that I feel like, if we need to talk in more detail, then people can reach out, but it's a serious,
Hmm.
legit thing.
Yeah,
So,
never ever ever listen to someone if they tell you that you'll get over it without help. That's not how that works.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's we talked a lot with Bailey last time about like reaching out to support people and doing all of those things, and I think Bayo as well as myself and Bailey have all experienced that firsthand of like if you're the utmost importance of reaching out to those people cannot be said enough.
Absolutely. If you like Funny said, if you are seriously contemplating self-harm or suicide, talk to someone right now.
Absolutely,
You need to.
absolutely. So with that being said, Um, what are some of the things that you wanted to talk about today? What would be a good place to start for you?
I think probably the best place to start is really the beginning.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Uh, well, as I do like to keep some anonymity, I don't mind sharing where I'm from. I was born in Starkville, Mississippi in 1996. It's a nice town. It still is. Uh, and when I was 3 years old, my first brother entered the world. His name was Reed. Reed was a very, very, very nice boy.
Yeah.
We always fought like brothers do.
Well, yeah.
But we were also best friends. So, but life ain't fair, and I found that out very, very early on in life.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old and he was three. No, wait, I must have been two when he was born. I'm sorry, I
No,
get
it's
dates confused
it's all good,
sometimes.
man.
When I was 5 years old, on like a normal routine, I would go and visit my grandparents. Every weekend, I would go and spend the night at their house because they absolutely loved having us over.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, as soon as I get back, I find out that my little brother has passed away.
Jeez.
Very, very suddenly, might I add.
Yeah.
I can say how it happened too.
Yeah.
It turns out he had caught something. We're not quite sure. We think it might have been at school because everyone got shots and everything after that happened. Um, We're not sure exactly what it was at first. We thought it was just an advanced fever with strep throat,
Yeah.
and he just was feeling really bad. So we all thought he was going to be all right. But his condition quickly deteriorated, and he had to be put into ICU.
Yeah.
And it turns out he had a version of the flu that created I know this is not the medical term for it. I think what they call it is a septic infection, where
Okay.
essentially your blood becomes infected and then
Yeah.
spreads throughout your entire body.
Yeah. You become septic. Yeah.
hmm So he basically died of septic shock,
Oh,
and
jeez.
it was extremely quickly, within hours.
Yeah.
I'm extremely happy, though, that he was not awake for it, because I would not want to imagine what a 3-year-old thinks when he sees his body dying in front of him.
Right. I mean, especially for it to happen so quickly like that, that's just, gosh, that's
It
horrible.
was it was insane. No one was expecting it. The doctors basically, we had seen several doctors, and they said he basically just had strep throat or the flu, and it should get better. By all accounts, he should have survived. It's just the fact that a mutation in it, caused it to have a septic infection.
Jeez. And so, yeah, he's fine one
And
minute and
yeah,
then he's gone.
he's
Well,
gone.
not fine, but nothing
He
like
was
that.
stable, and then he died within hours.
Jeez. So, like you said, I mean, what a
And
way to
that
find out life's
absolutely,
unfair.
yeah, like I said, 5 years old, and I found out what death really is.
Jeez.
Death is not fun. Death is not like that you see like in the movies or the Disney shows that you watch when you're 5.
No, not at all. Not in the least. Yeah, that's.
I think, yeah, it absolutely destroyed my parents and me. I I think my body started shutting down memories, because I only remember like one thing after in the next like 2 months after that, and that
Yeah.
was my family going to see someone like you, actually.
Oh, okay. So yeah, your family took the route of like, okay, this is well beyond
We have to,
us.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha.
And for years, my family was just destroyed. They had lost their second little boy. But we
Yeah.
persevered. We figured we had to figure out that we could not give up. And that was one thing my dad figured out, is
Yeah.
that, like, he had seriously contemplated self-harm or suicide after he lost his son, but
Yeah.
basically his therapist told him, if you're going to do it for your wife and child. Do it for
Yeah.
them. And I kind of adopted that phrase into my life.
Of the keep
If
going.
not for me, do it for them.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'd like to tell anybody. Even if you feel like there's absolutely no reason for you to keep going, as personally, there is still a reason to keep going for someone else. If not for you, do it for her or do it for him.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that you had mentioned when we talked before this of like, if there's any message to get across, it's that you you may not
Are
even
still
begin.
special to someone.
Well, absolutely. And you may not even begin to realize the amount of impact that you have on somebody on a daily basis. So, it may be that you're going along life and you don't even realize that somebody notices you. But if you were gone, then they would immediately recognize that and the impact would be just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely. And I
Because
think that's,
I
yeah,
never really know. I've seen that happen at work sometimes. We've had people at my job die, and we never really realized how much they contributed until they were gone.
yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes, we miss out on opportunities to let people know that, and and then it's one of those, well, I wish I would have kind of moments, and having those kinds of moments are just gut wrenching because it's like, had
They
I
are, but
had I known,
they're not
yeah,
healthy at all, though.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, not healthy in the sense that like it sucks carrying that around inside you. I mean, it's normal
Hmm.
to an extent because I think we all end up having those moments. But yeah, not healthy in the sense that like carrying that around can mess with you for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's
Absolutely.
I know it's a cliche to say no regrets, but if someone has passed away that was important in your life, don't regret not doing something.
Absolutely.
There is no way you could have possibly known
Yeah. Absolutely.
that they were going to pass like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the unexpected ones are the worst ones for sure because I mean that's when,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay,
Because you
well,
could have had an extremely heated argument with that person before.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it could be an infinite variable amount of things that could have happened in that person's life, but I think, the important thing is being able to move on from that. And that's something that, you've talked about being able to do, despite significant challenges, you've still been able to make that happen. And like you said, even if
Mm-hmm.
not for yourself, then for others.
Mm-hmm. And I
Absolutely.
guess I should continue.
Yeah, please.
Uh, After that happened, I we had I had another brother. His name is Luke. He is the second oldest in our family, and he can be a little turd sometimes, but I love him all
Sure.
the same.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I we had I had another brother named Kyle, and those two, they give me a headache sometime, but I would not hesitate to do anything for them.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I'm talking about. If not for me, do it for someone else.
Yeah, do it for them. Absolutely.
And after that, we well, actually no, I skipped something. Right after we had Luke, I uh, I had another thing that had to come up. It's not tragedy, but it is still a very, very big thing to impact someone in
Sure.
the transitional phase. We actually had to move. My father had a debilitating injury, and he couldn't work in the big rig business anymore because he used to repair 18 wheelers,
Okay.
and he was quite good at it. But he had injured his leg in a point where it was completely destroyed, and he had to have about 2 years of surgery done on it.
Oh my gosh.
So we figured we that my great uncle had a repair service, and my dad, even though he might not be able to work on big rigs, he can still fix refrigerators and everything
Okay. So
because
yeah,
he was a repairman by birth.
his mechanical knowledge paid off anyway.
Hmm. So
Absolutely.
we moved up here, and we spent a little bit in an apartment. And moving up here, I think this is what triggered it. I'm not quite sure. I'm no expert on mental health, unlike our man Funny here. But I think a big thing that happened when I moved is I developed ADHD, and it was very, very bad.
Yeah.
Like I could not sit still in class. I couldn't focus. I used to be a straight A student when I was in elementary, and then when we moved here in fifth grade, I was flunking everything,
Sure.
everything, and I could not pay attention at all. And we had to go see a psychiatrist so that way we could figure out what was wrong. And it turns out I had ADHD, and I had it pretty bad, might I add.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
that
definitely
was,
to the point. I mean, if you're flunking out of school, and you were previously an AB student, that
yeah,
definitely says something was going on.
yeah, that was, I had to we had to figure out something that was going wrong because I didn't know what was wrong with me. Like we
Yeah.
all thought I was, like my parents at first thought I was just being lazy or something, but I always did my schoolwork.
Yeah.
But it just turned into this nightmare test of attrition with myself, me not being able to do it.
Yeah.
So after we figured that out, we went through a bunch of medication. Um, and some of them were absolutely detrimental. I took this patch thing that I had to put on me it was basically a substitute to a pill.
Yeah.
And the side effects on that thing was nasty. I had no motivation, I could concentrate, but I didn't want to talk to my friends. I wouldn't eat. I
Yeah.
lost so much weight. And
Yeah.
I kind of had to figure out how to keep pushing through it, and I did until we found the right medication and the right dosage. And it basically helped bumped me through middle school and most of high school.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean,
But
the unfortunate thing about those meds is that sometimes it's just like it's a lottery. It's like, okay, well,
yeah,
you know, it,
it is absolutely a lottery. You have
yeah,
no idea what it's going to do to you.
absolutely. Sorry, you were going to
And
continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, it's a yeah. Um, my life basically went on as normal as it could be. Um, throughout middle school, I had a terrible time in middle school, but that was mainly trying to figure out who I was and dealing with bullying.
Yeah.
And I could go into a whole spiel about bullying, but I feel like that should be its own episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on that with Bailey a little bit, but yeah, I think that's definitely one where it's like, okay, well, if we were gonna really sit down and look at it, that could have its own episode for sure.
Yeah, that has its own connotation of what
Absolutely.
it does to you.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think in my sophomore year, at the very end, my father basically told me to sit down at the table with my mother, and I kind of was wondering what was going on, and he came clean that he was addicted to narcotics,
Okay.
and he had used for quite a while. And granted, I think that was an absolute like stupid thing for him to do. Like
Sure.
I really wish I could go back in time and like meet him back when he was like a teenager or whatever when he started using and tell him that how much it was going to screw him up.
Yeah.
But anyway, he had come clean and he said that he needed to go to rehab. So he got um and this had come right after uh hmm, this had come right after the I think after his father died, and that basically probably played a key role into him kind of like realizing what he was doing and that he
Yeah.
needed to stop. Um, I I hated losing my grandfather, his father. That was
Absolutely.
that was another instance of figuring out like what death is and what you need to do to help manage it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and where do we go from here kind of
Um,
thing. Like, okay,
yeah,
this has
where do I go
happened.
from here?
Yeah.
And I hated it and I was sad, but I figured out how to keep going.
Yeah.
And then, well, once my father had come out about narcotics and everything, he went to rehab down in Florida, and he was doing a pretty good job. When he had come back, he was clean. He was detoxed. He was doing pretty good for a little while.
Yeah.
And then his mother became terminally ill.
One thing after another. Good grief.
hmm And once that had happened, I think he started using again as a coping mechanism because I know he loved his father, but my father was a mama's boy, and just like I am.
Sure.
Like he was a tough SOB. Like he could look you in the eye and you'd stop screwing around, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, he gave you the look and
But
you knew.
yeah, the look of death of saying you quit screwing around and I'm gonna come beat your butt.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Absolutely.
But after that, I think he started using more as a coping mechanism more than anything instead of him wanting to actually use
Sure.
because he was staying up all night. He was getting high to help like because he struggled with bipolar and depression.
Okay.
And that on top of losing his father and now potentially losing his mother is not it just was too much for him.
Sure. Yeah, it got to the point of no
And
return.
and she went through different hospitals and it looked like he was okay and eventually we kind of realized it was time to move her to hospice because it was clear her condition wasn't going to get any better.
Yeah.
And everyone was extremely sad that she was in hospice, but she was in an amazing care facility. Like I
Yeah.
had absolutely no qualms about who she was staying with, essentially.
Which is impressive.
hmm And I'd give them a shout out if I would remember if anyone is in the Memphis area if they ever need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if anybody is looking for hospice care or any kind of supported living
I'll
facility, then
try and I'll try and
yeah,
find it, and then maybe you can put it in the description.
yeah, I can put it in the description, or you can just reach out to Bayo, and I mean he'll be able to he'll be shouting his stuff out at the end. So either one works.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, eventually the day had come, and I think we all kind of knew it was our last visit with her, so we definitely made it special. And the next night, my mother came in and said she had passed, but she
Yeah,
had passed peacefully.
which I mean you can't ask for much more than that.
No, I'm extremely happy that my father was able to say goodbye because he was the last person to go visit her.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
you got the final farewell.
that, yeah, that was that absolutely destroyed him. I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever seen him that depressed. Like, even though he took medication, he wasn't going to work. He couldn't get out of bed.
yeah,
Like, and he was using so bad. He our my grandparents, his parents, they were very well off. I will say that, but they were very modest,
sure.
and he unfortunately blew through almost all of the inheritance on drugs
Yeah,
because of how absolutely bad he felt.
yeah, just completely destroyed.
Hmm. And eventually, my mother had had enough, and she decided what was best for the family is to go live with her mother for about a year.
Gotcha.
I think that's about how long we stayed with her. Um, I know it was at least through one Christmas. And granted, my father hated that. He was very angry. I think he was lashing out more of kind of like, why are you leaving me more than
Yeah,
because my father said some very nasty things to my mother, but he never meant any of them. I think he was just confused more than anything.
sure. And I mean, it doesn't exactly help that, he's kind of half conscious anyway. So,
Hmm.
then he might not even completely get what's going on. And then all of
What's
a sudden
going on?
everybody's
And
leaving. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and he had basically lied to us that he said he was going back to rehab to figure it out. But I don't think he was ready yet. I
sure,
think that's why he lied.
sure.
Um, and one day when my mother was gonna basically scheduled like for my dad to be not in the house, she basically called him and said, "Let's be other places so I can come and grab some stuff from the house, so we won't have to have that interaction that we don't want to have." And he
Yeah,
basically agreed to that. But that was also his way of reaching out and asking for help because when my mother reached the house, she found my father overdosed on cocaine.
oh geez.
So they immediately rushed him to ICU and detox to get the shit out of his system.
Yeah,
Um, and basically, I think he had a come to Jesus moment at that point because I think he realized that if he did it anymore, he's gonna die.
yeah. I mean, if you think of a rock bottom, I mean, that's about as low as you get for rock bottom.
That was his rock bottom.
Yeah,
So once they got back, they told us what had happened, and after detox, he had actually gotten in confrontation with the police,
okay.
and uh, and like I said, the man was a tough SOB. It took 7 officers to bring him down.
Oh my goodness. He was not playing around.
And basically and basically during the detox time, he was visited by the police, I believe, and they basically gave him his court order. And the judge during that time had basically said that, like, you have 2 options. You can either serve felony time, and like this will go on your permanent record, or you can basically go to like forced rehabilitation, and
Mm-hmm.
we can basically try and get this shit off your record.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not quite sure how he was able to be acquitted of a felony charge, but I think like he was able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if
I'm
he's
very
willing to
glad
go to
because that would have
rehab.
screwed him over. Yeah,
Yeah.
he basically just was pleading with them that like just let's go to rehab.
Yeah.
And I think after that, he really started on the path to recovery. And I was very very proud of him that
Well, yeah.
he was doing it. He was although he was gaining a lot of weight because all he could do to like cope was eat.
Yeah.
Um, he was still not doing cocaine and
Right.
other shit.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's you want to talk about one of the hardest things you can ever do in your life. It's kicking something like that. I mean, and I mean,
Kicking
coke it
some to the curb.
right. Well, and so, coke itself is hard to kick regardless. But then there's also the feeling that comes with that, and the
Hmm.
invincibility, and I can go for days and not have to worry about anything, and all that different stuff, all those feelings, getting rid of all of that on top of, okay, well, this has numbed me to everything that's gone on in my life thus far. So, now I'm losing that, and being willing to give that up and start a new life. I mean, that takes some strength.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, and he had met some friends in rehab, and I think about three fourths of the way there, my parents had decided to get divorced. And
Gotcha.
I was devastated that to hear that they weren't going to be together, but I was very happy that this was not a one-sided thing, that they
Yeah.
both agreed it was best if we just moved on. My
Yeah.
parents still loved each other, but they both agreed it was time to move on.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, eventually you hit that
And
point, and it's like, all
yeah,
right, well,
it's like, look, I love you, but we can't keep doing this.
yeah.
And luckily, though, I was able to visit him quite often. I don't feel like I was ever denied contact to him, and I'm very
Yeah.
happy about that.
Absolutely. That's rare.
Hmm.
Usually,
And
some sort of
they
contact
still
is
had a
lost.
yeah, yeah. They were still very happy. They both talked to each other. They were basically straight to the excuse me, straight to the point and non-confrontational.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I really can't emphasize enough how awesome that is, because
Yeah,
it's become
I was
increasingly
terrified
rare.
that I was never going to be able to see them like together
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah. Like, can't even be around each other. We can't stand each other. All that. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. And let's see what else. What was next? That was also where my father met his second love interest
Okay.
in rehab. Um, like people have their own opinions on like people remarrying rather soon.
Sure.
It was I think it was about a year and a half later.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't think she wasn't a gold digger and she wasn't out just for him. She actually cared about him, and I liked their family. They were very nice.
Yeah.
Um, and they got along well with my little brothers and everything else. And I think that they were very very supportive.
Well, that's
Um,
that's awesome as
few
well.
years went by and yeah, and a few years went by and looks like everything was gonna be okay. Like everything had finally resolved itself. And I got to go. He eventually moved out of rehab and went to live at his buddy, which we just call him Mr. Chris, hunting lodge.
Okay.
And he lived there for about a little over a year, and then until him and his new wife basically decided to move in with each other.
Sure.
And he moved in with her because he didn't really want to mooch off his friend as much as he was.
Sure.
Um, After that, they basically moved in together and they kind of announced it, and it was okay. It was a little awkward at first meeting everyone, but I think we all grew to like each other, and that was very nice.
Yeah.
and he was picking up jobs here and there, and then he finally decided to get back into the repair industry and be the Oxford division of Mr. Appliance. I'm sure some people have used that service.
Sure, for sure.
And Oxford, Mississippi, I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, After they moved in together, I think it was 2 years, I think. And one day I got a call from my father that he said he had just totaled the work van,
Okay.
the very expensive work van, might I add. That
Yeah.
he was taking the work van out to go get some supplies, and a deer had run out in front of him because they did live in the backwoods, and he hydroplaned in some mud and totaled it into an oak tree.
Jeez.
Um, that set him back a lot of money, like $50,000.
Oh my gosh.
Because those work vans weren't cheap because it had a lot of like because it was the Mr. Plant's work van itself. It had been outfitted to be like compliant with all that stuff.
Yeah. Had all the
Thankfully,
gear
he
in
didn't
it.
lose any of his tools.
Okay. So that's good at least.
Um, but yeah, that set him back financially a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, and eventually things kind of one thing led to another, and he basically was apologizing profusely before I even talked to him one day, and I was like, what's wrong? And he says like he said I can't afford Christmas presents this year for you and the boys. Like I'm so deep in the hole, and like me and my brothers basically had kind of let them know, like let him know that how much we really didn't care if he couldn't do it. If you had like expenses, then don't worry about it.
Yeah. But that wasn't it.
But yeah, that he was a family man. I'll say that. He
Yeah.
couldn't stand the idea of not being able to provide. And granted, he was also paying child support, and he wasn't able to make some child support payments because of how far he got set back. And he
Sure.
was terrified that he wasn't able to do it because he could easily go to prison for that. But my mom did not hold a vengeful V for Vendetta thing against him, and basically said it was okay if you couldn't do it. Just do it when you can.
Yeah.
If But I don't know. I He blew things way out of proportion in his mind a lot, even though. And one day I had gotten a text from him that basically was asking how me and the boys were doing, and I said we're doing okay, and basically said I love you, and please tell the boys I love them, and I did. I kind of was weirded out because it was kind of out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and well, I think this is the first time I'm really going to say this to the public. I'm going to keep a little anonymity here. That's kind of why.
Yeah, that's go for it, man.
My father killed himself the next day.
Jeez.
He went out into the woods into the premise of going out and hunting, and he shot himself in the head.
Jeez.
They had to send a search party out there. And for the longest time after I got the news, that's when it kind of tying back into our overall theme of endurance. That's when
Yeah.
I figured out that I need to figure out a way to like build myself up. I have to be there. So
Yeah.
I think emotionally I shut down for about 3 months or 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So when I received the news from my mother, I didn't cry. I didn't. I basically had to think I am not allowed to break down yet. I have to figure out what my family is feeling first and take care of them before I can break down.
Sure.
I think that terrified my mother a lot because I don't think she quite realized that I had figured out my own resolve about
Yeah.
how to deal with death.
Yeah. But I mean, you'd had so much experience with it already. It's like you know, you kind of
Because,
react differently
I mean,
than others might.
yeah, it obviously devastated my little brothers and the rest of my family.
Oh, sure.
For a long time, I had refused to believe that he shot himself. I swear it up and down. It was, well, swore up and down. It was
Yeah.
just that like he had just slipped and gone off. But after I'd seen the report and everything, the gun was angled. It was literally impossible for him to do that.
Yeah. It was one of those like, okay, well, there's no real way. There's no other way this could go.
Could happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but homicide was thankfully ruled out immediately, considering it was just him,
Yeah.
and no other fingerprints were found on the firearm or anything else.
Yeah. It would have had to have been like a professional level thing for that to even be considered a
Yeah,
possibility,
and
and that just wasn't a reality.
yeah, like he had some enemies, but they were mainly gangsters that
Yeah.
he beat the shit out of.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that was one thing he did. He caught like some gangsters trying to get into his truck when he was running a call, and I think he hospitalized two of them, and
Gotcha.
one of them, yeah, they weren't getting back up. I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, anyway, what I was saying, yeah. So, and I think I came to terms a little bit afterwards, after my mother explained the circumstances. Um, my father had a life insurance policy
Mm-hmm.
that was a very nice life insurance policy, might I add.
Sure.
Um,
Like you said, family man.
and I think his family man. I think his last thing that he was doing, um, he called my mother and he said he was going to take care of the child support bill and the Christmas presents and everything. And that was basically saying I love you goodbye for her.
Yeah. Which of course she didn't
And
connect until
she had no
later.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, till much later, until it was too late.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the life insurance policy went through and we got the money from it. And I think that was his last thing that he kind of gave to us, basically saying, I'm out of options, even though, might I add to anyone listening, there is always another option.
Oh, absolutely. Always, always, always.
It might feel shitty. It might feel like you have nothing left in the world, but being there for someone is worth more than any money.
Absolutely.
There's being there for someone is always more important than money.
Absolutely.
You can be dirt poor and living on the streets, and as long as you're still there for your family, you're at least still there.
Yeah, or there for the people that are important to you. Absolutely.
Hmm. And I'm not quite sure how I really deal with it. I don't know how to describe it in detail, but I think it's mainly focusing on those certain emotions that I'm having and basically telling myself I can't be feeling this right now. I have other things to take care of first.
Sure.
There's a time and a place for basically I feel like there's a time and place to break down, but if other people need you, you need to help them.
Sure.
You definitely need to take care of yourself though.
Yeah, it's
And
finding
that's
that
one thing I
balance.
kind of learned the hard way,
Yeah.
because I kept it bottled up for so long, and I really shouldn't have, that I eventually just exploded one day when I was in the parking lot going to school.
Absolutely.
And I immediately drove home and just like talked with my mother.
Yeah. You reached out and you're like, you know what? Like, this isn't
Like
doing
I
it.
can't do it anymore.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. You hit your breaking point of, okay, I've taken care of the people that need to be taken care of. I can look at me now. And it sounds like in this case it was a more immediate, like, okay, I'm not like consciously recognizing this, but it's what's happening.
Exactly. And I kind of want to make that the overarching theme of this podcast of how we said overcoming adversity.
Yeah,
Basically, you need to tell yourself you're not allowed to give up. If you
absolutely.
don't allow yourself to give up, then you can't fail.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
You
I mean,
you might be rock bottom, but as long as you don't give up, you are still trying.
absolutely. And it's and not to take away from your point at all because it's directly related. But one of the things that Gary
Hmm.
Vee talks about in his podcast, it's more business related, but I think it applies here directly. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
is that you don't give yourself the option. So when you don't give yourself the option, in how you talk to yourself or how you approach things or whatever, when you don't give yourself the option, then you don't entertain the idea. So,
Exactly.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, if you don't even give yourself the option, you can't, like you said, you can't entertain the idea. That's one thing people were worried about me, about when I shut down, that I might be self-harming. I
Yeah.
never gave myself the option. I never even entertained the notion of doing that
Yeah.
because I knew that's not an option. That is a way out. That is not what I need to be looking for.
Sure. You need to take care of business. And then when you get to the point where you feel secure, then you can worry about other things.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that speaks a lot to several different things. But I think one thing that's really important to take away from that, and I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, so feel free to say if I'm wrong. But I think one of those things that's really important that loops back to the first couple of episodes that I did is priorities and knowing, okay, well, what are your priorities? What really matters to you? What's important to you? And then once you recognize those things, you take care of those things, and then you take care of your second level priorities and your whatever it is that needs to
Hmm.
happen. So for you, it definitely sounds like your priority is, okay, I'm going to take care of those people that I care about most. In this case, your family. And then
Hmm.
once
I
that's
was I
done,
was so scared
well,
about my
yeah.
family. That's who I was most worried about. Because
Well,
my
and I
brother
mean,
Luke really
yeah,
liked my dad. Like they had a very special connection. Like I had a very special connection with my father, but like my little brother like absolutely enjoyed, like was over ecstatic when we went to visit and stuff, and we loved it. He loved to do things with him and everything.
absolutely.
So it absolutely destroyed him, and I think he kind of had a moment because when we were at the burial grounds during the funeral for like the final finale part of it, I'm not quite sure what it was called.
Yeah, sure. The ending of the
Um,
ceremony or whatever.
yeah, yeah, where basically we have last rites when we
Yeah.
go to the cemetery. Um, he basically, I had, he did something that I had never seen him do before, and basically wander off from the group and go stand by himself about 100 feet away.
Yeah.
And that scared me at first.
Well,
But then I
sure.
went over there to talk to him and told him that no matter what, we have to keep going.
Hmm.
Like quitting is not on the table. He
Sure.
kind of gave me the dismissive nod he was giving everyone, considering I'm sure he had things to think about.
Well, yeah.
But I think he took that to heart. That he
Yeah.
realized that as well, that he needs to keep going. He doesn't need to just let it ball up inside you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's, it's something really important. And for those of you that are, um, really interested in research and really interested in technical terms, and that I'll throw out a technical term or a technical idea, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Um, and basically, it says like you take care of you have certain levels of need, and then once those levels of need are met, then you can focus on other things. And and so for you, your most basic level of need, aside from the obvious like food, water, shelter, that kind of stuff, um, the higher level of needs was, okay, well, I need to take care of my family, I need to take care of business, I need to make sure that those around me are secure, at least to the point where they, to the best of their abilities. And then once that's
Hmm.
done, I take care of myself and I look at my
Exactly.
emotional needs. I give myself the moment that I need, and then comes the the harder work, really. I mean, the I'm not in crisis mode. I'm not in emergency mode. I'm not putting out fires anymore. Now that I'm not doing that, I can look at things and say, okay, well, what am I carrying around?
Exactly. Because you might be carrying around baggage that you don't even know of.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, like you said, you were numb to it. Like
Exactly.
you'd had so much happen that your defense mode was okay. Well, again, tying it into the theme of the podcast, your your way of coping
Hunker
was
down.
hunker down. Absolutely. I'm gonna go into a shell, and I'm not even gonna entertain this right now, but it's for right now, and I know that. But for right now,
Hmm.
I need to survive, and then once I'm done surviving and taking care of the immediate needs, now I can do this. But numbing yourself initially was the way you dealt with it.
Exactly. I think a good analogy for it would be when you're performing surgery on someone and you don't put them to sleep. You basically just numb the area and then you start taking
Yeah,
care of business.
absolutely. Yeah,
Like
a
like when I
local
had like when I
anesthetic.
had my yeah, like when I had my toenail surgery and like they basically numbed my entire foot and then they went to work. And
Yeah,
then after they had done it, like then it came back and then I was able to deal with it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's probably a way that a lot of people deal with things. Honestly, is saying, okay, well, I can't deal with this right now, but I will deal with this, and once I do, X, Y, and Z can happen. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so you've had a lot happen, dude. Like I don't even begin to know how to transition into another good topic. Do you feel like there's anything in
Whatever you want to
particular?
talk about, man.
Okay. Do you feel like there's anything
Um,
in particular, or anything that you're like, okay, well, people should really know this?
Not really. I mean, those are the main highlights I kind of wanted to talk about, considering like those are the bits in my life that I realized that I have to figure out how to deal with something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So, so then would it be a good time to transition into how you're dealing with things now, and then we can kind of get a holistic picture of, okay, this, we've heard the historical build up until this point, and so first of all, the fact that you can overcome that much adversity, and I think that's something to acknowledge,
Hmm.
and that I think everybody has that amount of strength inside them, whether they recognize that or not, um, and whether or not they want to acknowledge that and capitalize on that is up to them. But I think that's something
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, that people can do. Um, but so we've heard a lot
Okay.
about the things that you've overcome. So what about now? How do you deal with things now?
Now, I think it's very similar of how it was, considering like I've had to because I recently had figured out that I more than likely have depression,
Sure,
like diagnosable depression.
sure,
And I think I kind of had a realization of like what exactly I was feeling, and I'm most of the points I was going to make on that, Bailey talked about.
yeah,
Um, and now I'm coming at it at a very similar angle, but with more knowledge.
sure,
That I definitely shut down the original idea of like I can't freak out right now. This does not mean the end of the world. There's nothing wrong with me. There's just a chemical imbalance in my brain.
sure,
And I can beat this. I need to figure out a way to beat this.
sure,
Like wallowing in your own self-pity only creates more self-pity.
sure.
There's I could go on a whole tangent about that,
It's
but
all
I'm
good,
gonna
man.
keep continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen some people who will they realize they had depression, but then they act different because they realize they have depression, and then they start entertaining it more, and then using that more as an excuse to not do things,
Sure.
and
Instead
that
of a
is
motivator
not
to get
healthy.
better.
Yeah, yeah, that is not healthy at all.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm doing right now is just doing things that I like. Like,
Mm.
even though I may not feel good, I'm going to tell myself that I do feel good. Like I like going and seeing my girlfriend, going talking with you, going watching streams, playing games, going like doing stuff with my friends online.
Yeah.
Like anything that I can use as a focus point of basically saying, "Shut up, depression. You are not the boss of me. I am going to have fun. Screw you."
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Yeah, and I think that's
Because I
so.
because I real
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
okay because I realized like I think 2 Sundays ago that like I realized what I was feeling, that I wasn't having fun, and it was
Mm.
terrifying to think of. It was like I'm visiting my girlfriend, I'm playing games with my friends, I'm doing all these things that I've loved for so long, and I'm not having fun. I go to bed and I don't have any motivation.
Yeah.
And then when I wake up, I can't get up because I'm like, what's the point of even getting up? Like,
Yeah. Why
and
even
I kind
bother?
of realized, you know, why even bother? But then I realized later on, it's like there is something wrong.
Yeah.
This is not for nothing. There is something wrong with me because I am not. I never feel this way. Like,
Yeah. This
okay,
isn't
that's not
me.
true. I have felt this way before,
Yeah.
but it usually subsides after a while, and that's usually just when I'm in a rut or having a bad
Yeah.
day.
Which I
But
mean, we
like,
all
this is
have.
not me.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you've had it happen for several days and you've had it more often than not, and it's not going away and it's not going back to the, oh, okay, I'm the usual Bayo again, like something's, yeah, you know that something's off. And when you recognize that, then you say, okay, I need to do something different here.
Yeah. And I went recently. I went to go talk to a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Dr. Austin. Um, well, not a medical doctor, a therapist doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
His name's Dr. Austin. If you're in the local area, I highly suggest going and seeing him if you have any problems. I'll give details at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, like I had seen him all throughout high school. Like basically, I was in a group of like four other high school teens,
Yeah.
and we were all guys, and we all had like a guys' night on every other Tuesday night. We went out and got pizza, or went down to the deli and got sandwiches, and we basically just talked.
Yeah.
And it was really really nice to like talk to someone and have another like input on something, because I'm very selective with my friends,
Yeah.
like
Which is smart.
very selective. Yeah, because like I don't need someone that's going to bring negativity in my life.
Yeah.
And so I went back to see him, and we basically talked it out, and we kind of came to the realization that like this is more than likely depression. So here I'm not saying to other people to not use antidepressants. I personally don't want to use antidepressants, and I'm going to try alternatives before if they don't work, I'm going to get on them.
Yeah.
But at first, I'm gonna like try and because I'm probably gonna be getting like a martial arts bag pretty soon, so that way I can get out my aggression if I've got a lot of pent up stuff from work, or like just stressed out for something, or and the exercise is an extremely important thing of like
Absolutely.
making sure that you are, if you're active, the because I think what's the chemical
Is
uh
it dopamine? Is that
if you
right?
have depression. No, no, it's not. Dopamine is the feeling. It's like the feeling of like relaxation. There's like the chemical imbalance of like depression. Like You have a deficiency of
Oh,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You would ask me, and I should know this, but
Yeah, I should know this too, but like
my
I'm kind of
midnight
just kind
brain
of
is
put both
not
of us on the
functioning.
spot. Yeah. Anyway,
It's not serotonin,
the
is it?
the it's serotonin. Yep,
Yep,
serotonin.
serotonin. Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, well, you have a deficiency of serotonin in your brain, and basically that can be remedied by getting a lot more vitamin D in your body by like going outside, or basically just if you work out. If you run more. If you do MMA, like or any kind of martial arts, like just do more of it. Like push your body because at the end you're gonna feel a whole lot better.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
absolutely. Yeah, and it's
mm-hmm,
and and I love this because I love that you're saying this and not me because this is stuff that I tell people on a daily basis when we're talking about depression or when we're talking about anything along those lines. Like the the amount of times that I tell people the exact things that you're saying is is really difficult to count at this point. So I love that you are saying this first of all, and I love that it's working for you, because then that definitely says that the things that I have been telling people aren't completely off the mark. And on top of that, this is what the research supports. So I love that. But
yeah, it's
exercise, getting into a routine, not allowing yourself to shut down. One thing that you've been saying without saying it directly is self-talk, being cognizant of what you're saying to yourself and
yeah.
saying
I'm
like,
just going to interject here just real
yeah,
quick.
please,
It's like
please.
it may seem silly to talk to yourself in the mirror, but it actually helps.
No joke. No
It
joke.
you may feel silly, you may feel like the cliche in the old '80s movie being telling yourself that you can do it,
Yeah,
but there's a reason that's a common reoccurring theme. It
absolutely.
actually helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, and like you said, it's like you're Rocky trying to get pumped up for a fight or something. But legit, it really, really works because it's almost like you're seeing somebody else say it when you look in the mirror, even though legitimately it's not. Like, obviously it's not somebody else saying it, but there's something about that effect of seeing it being said and then hearing it inside that you're like, okay, well, I know this to be true and I can acknowledge this.
Hmm.
110%. Okay. So, just to kind of put a nice, neat little bow on things and kind of sum up what I've been hearing from you so far. So, essentially, what I've heard is you started out by shelling up and taking care of the necessities, taking care of the things that you need to do, which may or may not work for somebody.
Hmm.
Some
Yeah,
people,
I'm not saying that this
yeah,
will work for everyone, but like
exactly,
if you're someone like me and you have people that you need to take care of, that's exactly what I did.
absolutely, and it worked for you. And for some other
Hmm.
people, they may try that and they may fall flat on their face and say, you know what, I just can't even function. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's different. So I think that's an important disclaimer to throw out there, just like I would with any other episode. Um, I think some of the highlights of what you've hit, just so that maybe this will kind of jog our memory and make sure there's nothing else you want to talk about. Um, so you did the shell up, you did the okay, I'm gonna take care of what I need to take care of, and then once I do that, then I can take care of other things that I need,
Exactly.
and look at things a little bit deeper. And then I think another thing that you did was you talked about again, the talking in the mirror and the self talk, constantly being aware of what you're saying to yourself, the beliefs that you hold, the values that you hold, the things that matter to you, really looking at those and making decisions based off of that consciously. And then, I think another thing that I was hearing was keeping yourself busy, but in a productive way. Not just like
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm not just being busy for the sake of being busy. I'm doing something that matters to me. Even if it's just something for pure pleasure, or even if it's something that's, kind of silly, but that you enjoy, it doesn't matter because ultimately you're still doing something and, having some valuable way to spend your time. And then on top of that, having some sort of physical outlet is always a good thing. So exercise, MMA, running, jumping jacks, yoga, breathing, whatever floats your boat in that realm. But having some sort of physical outlet um, is definitely another thing. Um, I feel like I'm missing one. I feel like there's one more that you said that I'm missing.
I think that's
Oh,
it.
reaching out to
But,
somebody. So that was another
oh, of
big one.
course.
Yeah, just reaching out and like you said, having your guys' night, and which, by the way, I absolutely love because I think that, and this could turn into its own episode, so I'm not going to dwell too far on this. But the fact that you had people that were willing to say, like, hey, this is a good outlet for guys to go and talk about what's going on with them is huge. Because typically speaking, if you're raised in a stereotypical male culture, we don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about any of that kind of stuff because that's not manly. That's not what men do, and that kind of stuff. So I think that
And
you
I'm just going to say that that right there, that mindset is a bunch of bullshit.
agreed.
Like you are, even if you're a man, even if you're a man's man, even if you're like tough as nails, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you still need to be able to talk to someone.
Absolutely. And that's part of what makes us human. It's the connections that we have. It's the meaningful relationships. All of that. That is what makes you a person, not just a man, but a person. And I think that's something that's incredibly important to acknowledge. But the fact that you had that, and the fact that you had that kind of outlet, I absolutely love. Because again, that's not something that you hear about too often. So having a guys' night or having a guys get together where you all can do that is awesome. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very very important to have
absolutely,
people to talk to. Like even if like you don't feel exactly comfortable, like if you've got a group of guy friends and there's at least one of them that will sit down and listen to you just talk, you found someone that can be potentially like your best friend for life.
absolutely, and a life changer. Not just a best friend, but a life changer because having somebody having the level of meaningful connection with somebody where they are willing to sit down and hear you and try to understand you and truly get where you are and where you're coming from as a person is invaluable. I mean, that is like people will search their entire lives trying to find that.
Hey,
So,
I am so thankful that the buddies that I've got, granted, like we don't always talk about like touchy feely stuff all the time, but like
yeah,
if one of us is down, we're gonna talk about it. Like
absolutely.
there's no reason to like bottle that up. Like if you're
Right.
with friends, if they're actually your friends, they're gonna want to listen to you.
Absolutely.
They're gonna want to hear what you have to say.
They genuinely care about you. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's. I know this is a heavy episode as well, but I feel like we've covered some really good stuff today, and I can't say thank you enough for everything you've talked about thus far, because
It,
I think it really makes a difference hearing it from somebody other than me.
yeah, exactly.
So I appreciate that. Um,
Of course, of course.
so Um, Chat. Do you all? I'm gonna break the fourth wall again, like I do in every episode. Is there anything that you all feel like we should have talked about more, or anything that you all wanted to know more about before we start moving into our wrap up? Because otherwise, we're gonna start doing that. So while we're waiting on a response and giving people time to get back to the keyboard if they've been AFK or whatever, um, what would you like to shout out, if anything, while we have that, while we have the
Um,
moment?
I think a big thing to shout out mainly is just you, honestly.
I
Like
appreciate it.
I mean, honestly, there's not very many people in this world like Funny who will actually want to sit down and listen to you. But not only that, that are qualified. I'm just going to basically say pretty much any therapist that actually cares about their clients.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Well, sure. Um, if you want to reach out to me on social media, my username on Facebook, that's the only one I really use. Other than Twitch is my Twitch screen name, which is Beowulf Blackburn. Beowulf, the B and Beowulf and B and Blackburn are both capitalized. But uh, but the Beowulf is also spelled like the way that it is in Norse mythology. So a U, no O.
Yes. So Beowulf, and then Blackburn.
Exactly.
Yes.
hmm Um, And if we hit it off, I'll send you my gamer tag. I am rather selective of who I play with. That's nothing. If I don't play with you, don't take it against like anything against you. I don't have any V for Vendetta against any person. I'm just rather selective of who I play with.
Absolutely. And I've been one of the very fortunate few. So, so yeah. So Beowulf Blackburn on Facebook and on Twitch
And
if you'd like to get in
Twitch,
touch with him and follow his life journey. You were streaming at one point, and I think there was talk
I
about getting back
am
into that.
planning. Yeah, I do want to start doing that again, but I also have to figure out like a day that I'm consistently off because
Yeah.
starting a stream at 10 p.m. without any warning is kind of like everyone's starting to go to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
Because by the time because I work a lot of night shifts, so by the time I'm usually home, like I don't really want to do anything other than just talk with friends.
absolutely. And I mean, so you may see him floating around the Twitch world as Beowulf Blackburn in random chats, more than likely dropping some dank memes. Um, but
Oh
other than
yeah.
that, that's what he does. Um, so yeah, looking back over the notes and looking over the list of things that we wanted to talk about, I think we covered everything and then some. So, and it looks like everybody else is pretty satisfied with everything and making sure that we're good there. Um, so yeah, thanks again, man. Like um, I can't say enough how much I appreciate everything that you shared today because I really do think it's just invaluable, and hearing your life story and being willing to put it out there is awesome. So thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I had a great time being on.
Good. I'm glad. So maybe,
It's it's
oh, go ahead.
it's nice sharing a life story if you've got a lot to say, I should say.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, even if you don't have much to say, sometimes it's just fun to shoot the crap
hmm
with people and be like, hey, this is what's up with me. What's going on? You know?
Exactly.
So there's nothing wrong with that at all. And, I'm sure at some point we'll probably have a follow episode like Bailey had suggested and have people
Yeah.
back on that want to talk about, okay, well, I've been thinking about this and this has been weighing pretty heavy on me and I feel like, other people should know about this or whatever. So we'll definitely have one of those at some point.
Of course. Yeah,
And
that sounds like a great idea.
yeah, and it's not like I'm just gonna disappear after this and be like, all right, well, I'm never talking to you again, Bayo. We'll be playing together and stuff. So
No, I'd be rather upset if you
right,
never talk to me again.
right, exactly, exactly. That would just not be cool. So, for those of you that want to reach out to me, you can reach me at Aren't You Funny on Twitch. So that's ARENTUFUNNY, and that's the letter U, not the word. And then if you want to be able to reach out to me via email to give any kind of feedback about the podcast, or send in a story or a question that you want me to cover, or anything along those lines, please feel free to do so. Even if you're like, you know what, your podcast is garbage, don't ever do it again, I will take that into consideration. So feel free to reach out to me at aren'tyouffunnytv@gmail.com. So that's aren't you funny with TV at the end of it at gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at aren't you funny, and on Instagram at aren't you funny TV. So you can find the podcast on Stitcher, Anchor, iTunes, and one other one that I'm forgetting. Oh, Pocket Casts, which I still need to check out. But you can find the podcast at any of those places. I also upload the videos onto my YouTube channel, which you can find on any of my socials. So thank you all so much for stopping by and hanging out. I really appreciate you, and I hope that this episode has helped bring you just a little bit of peace of mind. Peace out. So, again, thank you so much, my man. Like that was
Oh, sure thing.
good stuff. And yeah, I love doing this just because I get to know you all better. Like I had no clue about any of this stuff about you. Like I knew that you had been through some stuff, and I knew that that you had your struggles, just like everybody else. Um, but I did not know the depth of things that you had been through. So I love getting to know you through this. So that was awesome. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I mean, I usually don't like share my life story,
Well,
but
yeah,
like I feel like this is a really good platform to do so on, just in case anyone had felt the same way or had experienced
absolutely.
something rather similar.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why I want this platform, because I want people to be able to come on and say, okay, these are things that have happened in my life. Obviously, I'm still here, so I've made it through it in some form or fashion. And then hopefully that will inspire other people to either realize that they need to do something about it themselves, or that they need to, go and reach out to somebody, or that they can handle things, or whatever. Even if they don't get anything else out of it, if they just realize that other people have been through similar struggles and they can do it too, my life is complete.
Hmm.
Like, cool. I'm glad. You know? And I think the fact
Yeah,
that,
realizing that there were other people out there that experienced the same thing that I have before is a really good I want to say like sobering thing. Like
yeah,
you don't feel like you're in your own little world.
absolutely. 110%. 110%. So I'll be honest with you all, chat. I see you all, but and also screw funny bot for now. I apologize for that. B. Basically, if you put a period next to anything, it looks like a link to the bot, and it'll ban it. So I apologize. But